Bhaje Namo Gaurakishoraya Bhaktavadhutamurtaye Gaurangra Padma Bhringaya Radha Bhavanishevini Vande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radha Rasa Sudhanidim Gaura Vrajashita Sheshair Vaishnaveir Vanda Vigraham Jagannatha Prabhum Vande Premabdhim Riddha Vaishnavam Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namo Mahavadanaye Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tushe Namah. So I want to welcome everyone. Sashtang Dandot Pranam to all the devotees, servitors, Vaishnavas, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math worldwide, and anywhere else they're tuning in from. Today is we're going to begin our reading for search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. And I have our distinguished panelists over here. Let me bring them on. Dandot Pranam, Sripad Arun Krishna Prabhu.
Dandot Prabhu.
Dandot Pranam, Sripad Chanmay Dev Prabhu.
Dhanyavad.
Good to have your divine association. And today we're going to begin with the search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. And with your permission, I can begin reading. Before we begin, just want to say that the foreword for this is by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is really, really wonderful. And I'd like to first read that with you and share with everyone else, because essentially, in a nutshell, what's in it for us, he pretty much lays it out very, very succinctly and nicely. So if you guys are ready, then I can start reading.
Please.
All right. So this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We love to read a book which we have never read before. We are anxious to gather whatever information is contained in it. And with such acquirement, our curiosity stops. This mode of study prevails amongst a great number of readers who are great men in their own estimation, as well as in the estimation of those who are of their own stamp. In fact, most readers are mere repositories of facts and statements made by other people. But this is not study. The student is to read the facts with a view to create, and not with the object of fruitless retention. Students, like satellites, should reflect whatever light they receive from authors and not imprison the facts and thoughts, just as the magistrates imprison the convicts in the jail. Thought is progressive. The author's thought must have progress in the reader in the shape of correction or development. He is the best critic who can show the further development of an old thought. But a mere denouncer is the enemy of progress, and consequently of nature. Progress certainly is the law of nature, and there must be corrections and developments with the progress of time. But progress means going further or rising higher. The shallow critic and the fruitless reader are the two great enemies of progress. We must shun them. The true critic, on the other hand, advises us to preserve what we have already, to preserve, pardon me. The true critic, on the other hand, advises us to preserve what we already obtained and to adjust our race from that point where we have arrived in the heat of our progress. He will never advise us to go back to the point whence we started, as he fully knows that in that case there will be a fruitless loss of our valuable time and labor. He will direct the adjustment of the angle of our race at the point where we are. This is also the characteristic of the useful student. He will read an old author and will find out his exact position in the progress of thought. He will never propose to burn a book on the ground that it contains thoughts which are useless. No thought is useless. Thoughts are means by which we attain our objects. The reader who denounces a bad thought does not know that a bad road is even capable of improvement and conversion into a good one. One thought is a road leading to another. Thus, the reader will find that one thought which is the object today will be the means of a further object tomorrow. Thoughts will necessarily continue to be an endless series of means and objects in the progress of humanity. The great reformers will always assert that they have come out not to destroy the old law, but to fulfill it. Valmiki, Vyas, Plato, Jesus, Confucius, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assert the fact either expressly or by their conduct. Our critic, however, may nobly tell us that a reformer like Vyas, unless purely explained, may lead thousands of men into great trouble in time to come. But dear critic, study the history of ages and countries. Where have you found the philosopher and reformer fully understood by the people? The popular religion is fear of God, and not the pure spiritual love which Plato, Vyas, Jesus, and Chaitanya taught to their respective peoples. Whether you give the absolute religion in figures or simple expressions, or teach them by means of books or oral speeches, the ignorant and the thoughtless must degrade it. It is indeed very easy to tell and swift to hear that absolute truth has such an affinity with the human soul that it comes through as if intuitively, and that no exertion is necessary to teach the precepts of true religion. But this is a deceptive idea. It may be true of ethics and of the alphabet of religion. but not of the highest form of faith, which requires an exalted soul to understand. All higher truths, though intuitive, require previous education in the simpler ones. That religion is the purest, which gives us the purest idea of God. How then is it possible that the ignorant will ever obtain the absolute religion as long as they are ignorant? So we are not to scandalize the Savior of Jerusalem or the Savior of Nadia. For these subsequent evils, Luthers instead of critics are what we want for the correction of those evils by the true interpretation of the original precepts. A brief pause here. I think Luther's, he is referring to the 16th century German reformist, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That's what I thought. God gives us truth as He gave it to Vyas, when we earnestly seek for it. Truth is eternal and inexhaustible. The soul receives a revelation when it is anxious for it. The souls of the great thinkers of the bygone ages, who now live spiritually, often approach our inquiring spirit and assist it in its development. Thus, Vyas was assisted by Narad and Brahma. Our Shastras, or in other words, books of thought, do not contain all that we could get from the Infinite Father. No book is without its errors. God's revelation is absolute truth, but it is scarcely received and preserved in its natural purity. We have been advised in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 14, verse number 3, to believe that truth, when revealed, is absolute, but it gets the tincture of the nature of the receiver in course of time and is converted into error by continual exchange of hands from age to age. New revelations, therefore, are continually necessary in order to keep truth in its original purity. We are thus warned to be careful in our studies of old authors, however wise they are reputed to be. Here we have full liberty to reject the wrong idea, which is not sanctioned by the peace of conscience. Vyas was not satisfied with what he collected in the Vedas, arranged in the Puranas, and composed in the Mahabharata. The peace of his conscience did not sanction his labors. It told him from inside, "No, Vyas, you can't rest contented with the erroneous picture of truth which was necessarily presented to you by the sages of bygone days. You must yourself knock at the door of the inexhaustible store of truth from which the former sages drew their wealth. Go up to the fountainhead of truth, where no pilgrim meets with disappointment of any kind." Vyas did it and obtained what he wanted. We have all been advised to do so. Liberty, then, is the principle which we must consider as the most valuable gift of God. We must not allow ourselves to be led by those who lived and thought before us. We must think for ourselves and try to get further truths, which are still undiscovered. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse number 23, we have been advised to take the spirit of the Shastras and not the words. The Bhagavad is therefore a religion of liberty, unmixed truth, and absolute love. The other characteristic is progress. Liberty certainly is the father of all progress. Holy liberty is the cause of progress upwards and upwards in eternity and endless activity of love. Liberty misused causes degradation, and the Vaishnava must always carefully use this high and beautiful gift of God. The spirit of this text goes far to honor all great reformers and teachers who lived and will live in other countries. The Vaishnava is ready to honor all men without distinction of caste because they are filled with the energy of God. See how universal is the religion of the Bhagavad. It is not intended for a certain class of Hindus alone, but it is a gift to man at large in whatever country he is born and in whatever society he is bred. In short, Vaishnavism is the absolute love binding all men together into the infinite, unconditioned, and absolute God. May peace reign forever in the whole universe, in the continual development of its purity, by the exertion of the future heroes who will be blessed according to the promise of the Bhagavad, with the powers from the Almighty Father, the Creator, Preserver, and the Annihilator of all things in heaven and earth. Jai Satchidanand Śrīla Bhakti Thakur ki Jai. This is from an English lecture delivered in 1869 at Dinajpur, West Bengal. 1869. We are taught in school that the telltale of a classic is that you pick it up in any time, at any time, it will be fresh. Any reflections from the panel?
I have a question, Prabhuji. So I'm just trying to look at the chronological calendar of the modern times, trying to understand the forward to a book by Śrīla Haridas, by our master's master.
Yeah.
So when did Śrīdhar Mahārāj write this, and then how it became the forward is simply a curiosity in my mind.
So the time factor is something that even in Bhagavatam, if you read these exalted literatures, it will always tend to challenge our perception of time.
Yes.
So I think it's beautiful to have this as challenging our sense of perception of time, of how it flows. And this is just the beginning. Let me go to the next part, which is the preface. Preface, if you study classically, is given by the author themselves. And here the preface is being given by Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And while sharing the Vyasasana with Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj. Unheard of. I have never heard of this. I have no experience of this. Maybe others do. I'm a neophyte. I know, but I've never heard of this.
So this is the Leela where one can see with their own eyes how this is possible.
Exactly.
And it directly forces us to really see that his Gurudev is Guru is able to say certain things which is really in our conventional material sense is just a folks in a different way. But this really is a very, very powerful fact that will force everybody to think about it.
Exactly. And that's what this is to further that progress, that progress of thought. And so it's exemplifying. And I think
and Prabhuji, if I may also add, I mean, what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is educating us is really, at least in my heart, because that Sat is not just contained, it's not a fixed thing, it just keeps growing. And it keeps growing because of that connection that the Guru has to go pick from that original source and spread it along. And thus we see continuous improvement, allowing people further down the chain to be able to more easily mentally digest what is being said, what the reality is.
so he says, if you remember, he says, whenever the soul is anxious, there will be revelation. And by the, like you said, digestive capacity of the times, of the peoples, and of the soul, the level of realization or the level of revelation would happen. Otherwise, if it is more, then indigestion. There will be chaos. And that is not the idea. So over the time we can see how this has progressed to Lord Chaitanya, where we see full-fledged theism. Before that, it always came in, like steps and gradation, like that. So if you permit, then I can start. Namaskar Preeti ji and Nandarani ji. Welcome.
Dhanavad.
Okay, so now the preface is by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And on Facebook, I am projecting a beautiful picture of our three acharyas all together. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj sharing the Vyasasana, the seat of Vyas offered to the bona fide spiritual master. Srila Govinda Mahārāj is near the microphone, is speaking. All three of them are there. It's a beautiful, beautiful picture. Okay. Now this is by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are very fortunate to hear His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajacharya Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Mahārāj. By age and by experience, in both ways, he is senior to me. Arun Prabhu, would you like to read?
Yes, I can read, Prabhuji.
Please read. Thank you.
So we are very fortunate to hear His Divine Grace, Om Krishna Pad Paramahans Parivaktyar Raj Acharya Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Mahārāj. By age and by experience in both ways, he is senior to me. I was fortunate to have his association since a long time, since perhaps 1930. At that time, he had not accepted sannyas, but had just left home. He went to preach in Allahabad, and on that auspicious occasion, we were connected. And I think what Śrīla Prabhupada might be talking about, if I may comment, Prabhu, is that because Śrīla Prabhupada, before he took sannyas, he was very closely associated with Allahabad too. So maybe that is what had that auspicious occasion for them to meet.
Yeah.
Śrīla Mahārāj has lived in my house for many years. So naturally, we had very intimate talks. He has such a high realization of Krishna that one would faint to hear them. He was always my good advisor, and I took his advice very seriously, because from the very beginning I knew that he was a pure devotee of Krishna. So I wanted to associate with him. Krishna and Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, liked him to prepare me. Our relationship is very intimate. After the breakdown of our spiritual masters institution, I wanted to organize another institution, making Śrīdhar Mahārāj the head. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told me that Śrīdhar Mahārāj is one of the finest preachers of Krishna consciousness in the world. So I wanted to take him everywhere. This was my earnest desire. But since he could not go around the world and preach, at least the people of the world should come to hear from him. For spiritual advancement of life, we must go to someone who is actually practicing spiritual life. So, if one is actually serious to take instructions from a Shiksha Guru or instructing spiritual master, I can refer him to one who is the most competent of all my God brothers. This is Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Mahārāj. I consider Śrīdhar Mahārāj to be even my Shiksha Guru. So what to speak of the benefit of others? So what to speak of the benefit that others can have from his association?
Joy. Vishwavarenya Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki joy.
Jai.
Do you see how intimate they were?
It is our great, great fortune that we have that connection through Srila Bhakti Sundar Govind Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj.
Joy. Yes. So I think we should read the introduction as well. let's see. Everyone is searching for rasa, pleasure. The status of rasa is the highest. As persons, we have our subjective existence, but rasa, pleasure, has his super subjective existence. He is a person. He is Akhila Rasamrita Murti, the reservoir of all pleasure. He is Krishna. Rasa is Krishna. There cannot be rasa in any other place but Krishna. He is the fountainhead of all different types of rasa. So, by the nature of our constitution, we have to search after Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita it is said, inquire after the supreme cause of this. In the Brahma Sutra it is said, inquire after the supreme cause of this world. Search. From where has everything come? How is everything maintaining its existence? By whom? And ultimately, where does everything enter after death? That is Brahma. Tad vijigyasasya tadeva Brahma. That is Brahma, spirit. The most fundamental plane from where everything springs up, remains, and ultimately enters. Where is Brahma? The Brahma Sutra advises us to inquire after the prime cause, the biggest, the all accommodating. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replaced that. Srimad Bhagavatam replaced that with Krishnanusandhan, the search for Sri Krishna. Brahma Jigyasa, the search for spirit, is a dry thing. That is only the exercise of your thinking faculty. A jugglery of reason, leave that behind. Begin the search for Sri Krishna and quench the thirst of your heart. Rasa Jigyasa. Raso Vaisa. The things acquired by your reason won't satisfy you. Gyan, knowledge, cannot really quench your thirst. So instead of Brahma Jigyasa, accept Krishna Anusandhan and begin the search for Sri Krishna. Where is Krishna? Our real want will be satisfied only by getting the service of Krishna, not by anything else. We want to satisfy the innermost demands of our hearts. We don't care to know where we are or what is controlling everything. But we really want to quench our thirst for rasa, for madhurya, for sweetness. We must search neither for knowledge nor for the controller of this world. We must search after rasa, anandam, after beauty and charm. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srimad Bhagavatam have taught us what to beg for, what to pray for, what to want. They have taught us, if you beg, beg for Krishna, not for anything else. So the fate of the Vaishnavas, the students of the Bhagavata, and the followers of Mahaprabhu is sealed in the search for Sri Krishna. We want nothing else but Krishna. The Vedas say, Shunavant Vishwe Amritasya Putra. O you sons of nectar, sons of the nectarian ocean sea, please listen to me. You were born in nectar. You were born to taste nectar. And you must not allow yourselves to be satisfied by anything but nectar. So, however misguided you may be for the time being, awake. Arise. Search for that nectar, that satisfaction. The Vedas tell us, Om. Om means a big yes. What you're searching for, that is. Don't be disappointed. The Vedas say that the object of our inner search exists. The common search of all your hearts is existing and your thirst will be quenched. By your constitution, you are meant for that, and you deserve that. So don't be afraid. Don't be cowed down. It is already given in your being, and you can never be satisfied with anything else. So prepare yourself after your long search to receive that long missing nectar in its full form and quality. Awake, arise, search for your fortune, and you cannot but have that. It is your birthright. It is the wealth of your own soul. It cannot but be within you. You have no other business, no other engagement but Krishna Anusandhan, the search for Sri Krishna, reality, the beautiful. Hare Krishna. So I would like to pause here unless you have some reflections, because this is really, really wonderful. And we will begin with the actual Krishna consciousness, love and beauty in our next session. Let me gather the team. Meanwhile, if you like to reflect or say something, please go ahead.
Prabhu,
Yes.
this is the first book I read,
Uh-huh.
and what really captured me was that first line in the introduction. Because at that time, when I read this book, I was an atheist, and not only was I an atheist, I considered myself a hedonistic atheist,
Whoa.
and I considered that everybody was a hedonist. From Mother Teresa to Gandhi, Martin Luther King, whoever, they're all hedonists because they're all looking for pleasure. That's why they did what they did, because they were seeking pleasure.
Right.
And then the first line there, everyone is searching for rasa, pleasure. And I was stunned because here's this religious man telling what a hedonistic atheist believes. And so I thought, well, there must be something here.
Hare Krishna.
This man must know something.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Gaur Hari.
And it is such a beautiful introduction. And Gurudev is always saying, we are not hopeless. And this just an introduction gives so much hope.
Right?
Mm.
That's why I thought we would lay a little more stress than normally to, the preface, the foreword, and the introduction, because it's so powerful and so beautiful. It really touches the heart. If there are any sincere seekers and if they see our presentation, I am sure they will be touched.
Mm.
So give me a
Prabhu,
second.
One more thing is, this is the first, I think in my life I heard this for the first time, Krishna Anusandhan. It is not, I have not heard it anywhere else, but this is so apt and accurate as Param Guru Mahārāj is explaining to us. This is all it's about. It's not about Brahma Jigyasa, it is about search for Krishna.
Yeah, because Anusandhan, like Arun Prabhu, you would know, Anusandhan is not careless kind of,
Search.
going and asking Swami Googalananda a question. That's not Anusandhan.
Which is also really nice because not everybody can search after knowledge. Not everybody has that capacity, but everybody has the capacity to search after beauty.
Yes.
So it's available to everyone.
Joy. So okay, we're ready.
Can you move it up? That's like all the way. Yeah, it's way too. That's okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Because you moved.
Well, I had to.
You just stay there. You can't move like that.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Haraya Namah
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Madhavaya Namaha
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath
Jaya Rupa Sanatana
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath
Ichhai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan
Ekha Gosai Tori Charana Vandan
Hoite Vignana Shabishta Puran
Jaha Hoite Nana Sahita Puran
Ichhai Gosai Jar Muitara Das
Ekha Gosai Jar Muitaradas
Tansabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras
Tansabara Padare Mora Panchagras
Kandera Charana Se Bhi Bhakta Sane Bas
Tandera Charana Devi Bhakta Sane Bas
Janame Janame Mora Abhilash
Janame Mora Deya Bhilash
Ichhai Gosai Jabe Braja Koilabas
Ekha Gosai Jabe Gaje Koilabas
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Kaurila Prakash
Radha Krishna Nitya Leela
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaj Vrindavan
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majaiya Man
Guru Vaishnava Pade Majhaiya Man
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas
Hari Naam Sankirtana Ko Hai Narottama Das
Harinam Sankirtana Narottama Das
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Joy. Okay, Anika ji, please take it away.
Sapri Kashi Shri Guru Granth Gandhar Govinda Sundar Giridhar Gopi Laju Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupat Purangsha Parvari Chakrara Vari Astadad Satashi Srimad Bhakti Sundar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupat Purangsha Parvari Chakrara Vari Astadad Satashi Srimad Bhakti Rasakshar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj Ki Jai.
Joy.
Jaya Om Vishnupat Purangsha Parvari Chakrara Vari Astadad Satashi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Sarvasti Thakur Ki Jai.
Joy.
Jaya Om Vishnupat Chol Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai.
Joy.
Jaya Om Vishnupat Chol Satchidananda Bhakti Noda Thakur Ki Jai.
Joy.
Jaya Om Vishnupat Chol Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai.
Joy.
Shri Rupanuga Gurvarga Ki Jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Baldev Vidyabhushan Ki Jai. Lord Vishwanath Chakravarti Ki Jai. Shri Nurtara Shama Manda Shri Vasni Chapu Ki Jai. Shri Ravindra Das Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Ki Jai. Saprasada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saprasada Shri Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Girdhar Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Lakshmi Vardeva Ki Jai. Sudha Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nrsimha Deva Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Ganga Jamna Ji Ki Jai.
Joy.
Grantha Raja Shri Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charmatra Ki Jai. Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha Ki Jai.
Joy.
Akrat Mat Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Hadya Saka Mat Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Vishva Pavya Tadya Saka Mat Ki Jai. Shudam Maipur Ki Jai. Shudam Nabadi Ki Jai. Vrindavan Pursattam Dham Ki Jai. Baladeva Subhadra Dugna Ji Ki Jai.
Joy.
Shri Govinda Kunda Ki Jai.
Joy.
Shri Shri Shiva Ganga Ji Ki Jai. Samaveta Vaishnava Mandal Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitya Gopnande Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari
Shri
Hari
Anika ji, Preeti ji and Bikram ji ki jai. Our
Jai.
divine panelists, Shripad Arun Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Our Shripad Chinmay Dev Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Sangeeta ji ki jai. Nandarani Didi ki jai. Nanda Kishore Prabhu ki jai. Elite Kirtan team ki jai. Abba ji ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Jai Srila.
Jai Ram Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila. Jai Srila. Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Mahārāj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Mahārāj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrind ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Sannasi Vrind ki jai. Vishwarendra Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Nittai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari.
Hari Bol.